mental picture. It can be any name, but it should be a beautiful name. In the Holy Quran, the Quran gives no less than 99 different attributes for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the crowning one is Allah. Why do we Muslims prefer calling Almighty God as Allah as compared to the other word, for example, the English word God? The reason is that the word Allah, it cannot be played around with as the other words can. For example, the word God. If you put an S to God, it becomes gods, plural of God. Allah is Kul Huwallahu Ahad, says Allah one and only. There's nothing like plural Allah in Islam. If you add D-E-S-S to God, it becomes goddess, that means a female God. There's nothing like male Allah or female Allah in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has got no gender. He has got no gender. If you add a father to God, it becomes Godfather. He's my Godfather, he's my guardian. There's nothing like Allah Abba or Allah Father in Islam. If you add a mother to God, it becomes Godmother. She's my Godmother. There's nothing like Allah Ammi or Allah Mother in Islam. Allah is a unique word. If you prefix a tin before God, it becomes tin God. There's nothing like tin Allah in Islam. That's the reason we Muslims, we prefer calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Supreme Creator instead of the English word God. But we have to use this word to those people who may not understand what does Allah mean. So if we translate, though it's not the correct appropriate translation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the English word God, but we have to use it so that those who don't know the correct concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may understand it. The Holy Quran says in Surah Baqarah chapter 2 verse number 177, it's not righteousness whether you turn your face to the east or the west, but it is righteousness that you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you believe in the hereafter, you believe in the angels, you believe in His books and His messengers. The second pillar is Salah. The Arabic word Salah, most of the people, they translate it as prayer. But again, I personally feel that prayer is not the right translation of the Arabic word Salah. Because if you look up in the dictionary, to pray means to beseech, to ask for help. In Salah, we not only ask for help, but we also praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He gives us guidance. Therefore, I prefer that instead of prayers, the English word maybe programming would be better. You know why? Because we are programmed in our Salah. We get guidance in the Salah. 5 times a day we get guidance in our Salah. It's programming. We are being programmed. For example, after reading Surah Fatiha, that is the first chapter of the Holy Quran, the Imam may read maybe Surah Maida chapter 5 verse number 90, which says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, innamal khamru wal maisuru. That, oh you who believe, most certainly intoxicants and gambling, wal anzabu wal aslamu, dedication of stones, divination of arrows, rishfum min amali shaitan. These are Satan's handiwork. Abstain from such handiwork that you may prosper. So the Imam, the person who is leading the Salah, he is giving us guidance that don't have alcohol, don't gamble, don't do idle, giving us guidance, giving us guidance. We are getting programmed. He may recite the verse of Surah Baqarah chapter 2, verse number 188, that do not use your wealth as a bait for the judges, so that you may eat up other people's wealth. That means bribing is haram, it's mentioned in the Quran. We are getting guidance. So therefore, I prefer calling programming. But if you ask me, where am I going? And if I say I'm going for programming, it may sound odd. Therefore, even I say that I'm going for prayers. So I've got no objection if people translate Salah into prayer, but it does not give the complete meaning of the word Salah. The Holy Quran says in Surah Ankabut, chapter 29, verse number 45, that Inna Salata Tanha Anil Fahsha'i wal Munkar. That verily, Salah keeps you away from shameful and unjust deeds. It restrains you from shameful and evil deeds. And we Muslims, we are supposed to pray minimum 5 times a day. Minimum. How for a healthy body, the doctor advises us, we should have meals 3 times a day. Similarly, to have a good spiritual soul, minimum 5 times a day you should offer Salah. And to call for the Salah, we have the Adhan. you have the call for prayers. It's called as the Adhan. And in December, last December, I was giving a talk. I was addressing a symposium in Kerala. And there was a non-Muslim, a minister, who was asked to talk first. And he was speaking the good points about Islam. And in between his talk, he said that, see the Muslim rulers in India, they did such good things to India, etc., etc. No wonder that you all praise the King Akbar in your azan 5 times a day. And believe me, there were 25,000 people, and all of them were laughing. When I came, I said that, see, the laughing stock is we Muslims. It's not his fault. What's his fault? We are the laughing stock that we Muslims have not told our non-Muslim brother that when we say Allahu Akbar, we mean Allah is the greatest. We aren't calling the King Akbar. So we are the laughing stock. It was our fault that we didn't tell our non-Muslim brothers the beauty of Islam, that we are saying that Allah is the greatest. We aren't calling to King Akbar in a salah. So it is our fault that we have not told about the beauty of Islam to our non-Muslim brothers. And when we enter the mosque, the Holy Quran says in Surah Taha, chapter 20, verse number 11 and 12, that when he approached, he heard a voice saying, O Moses, verily I am thy Lord. Take off thy shoes from thy feet, for thou art in the sacred valley of Tuah. It was a commandment given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when you come close to the place of worship, when you enter the place of worship, remove your footwear. That's the reason we Muslims, when we go to the mosque, we remove our footwear. And but naturally, besides that, it's a hygienic practice, because we bow down, we prostrate, and but natural, we are clean people. Therefore, we'd like a place of worship to be clean. And before Salah, the Holy Quran says in Surah Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verse number 6, that, O you who believe, when you go for prayers, wash your face, your hands, arms up to the elbow, wipe your head with water, and wash your feet up to the ankles. That means it's compulsory that you should do ablution before you appear in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we're hygienic people, we prefer being clean. Minimum 5 times a day, we wash ourselves. And besides that, it's also a mental preparation, like how you have prelims before your final examination. So when you're doing the wudu, you're mentally getting prepared. Okay, now I'm going to appear in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our Prophet said, it's mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 1, chapter number 7, in the book of Adhan, hadith number 692, that when you stand for salah, stand shoulder to shoulder. And another hadith says that when you stand for salah, stand shoulder to shoulder, so that the devil does not come in between you. Our Prophet was not referring to the devil, which you see in comic strips, or which you see in the Onida TV ad. Those who are in India, they know that in the Onida TV ad, they show a devil with horns and a tail. Our Prophet was not referring to that devil. The Prophet was referring to the devil of racism, of wealth, of caste, of color, irrespective whether rich or poor, whether you're black or white. From whichever tribe you may come, when you stand for salah, stand shoulder to shoulder, so that the brotherhood increases. And the best part of salah is the sujood. No wonder the Holy Quran mentions the word sujood no less than 92 times. And the psychologists, they tell us that our mind is not directly under our control. Our mind, it keeps on wandering. Suppose after you come from examination, you may start thinking that, why did I answer the question number 2 like that? I gave a wrong answer. I should have answered in that way. And that keeps on bothering you for days. Irrespective whether you think or not, the marks that you get will be the same. But still your mind is not under your control. Your body is under your control. I can lift my hand, I can take a step forward, but my mind is not directly under my control. So the psychologists, they tell us, to humble the mind, you have to humble the body. And there is no better way than what we Muslims do. You put the half part of the body, that's the forehead, on the ground, and then say, glory be to Allah the most greatest. Glory be to Allah the most greatest Christ. There's no better way. No acrobat can do better than what we Muslims do. And there are various other benefits of salah. I'd given a talk on the scientific benefits of salah. For example, throughout the day, there are electrostatic charges being given out from the body, from the brain, and when you do sujood, these electrostatic charges that are given out from the brain, they get grounded. Not that you'll get a shock if you put your hand below the head. It is that because of dominance of the frontal lobe, these are absorbed. Daily, most of the people, they're always erect. Blood is pumped from the heart into the brain. But for a very healthy brain, the blood that is pumped by the heart is not sufficient for a very healthy brain. It is sufficient for you to survive, but for a very healthy brain, it's not sufficient. When you do sujood, when your brain goes below the level of the heart, extra blood is flowed into the brain. There is extra blood supply which is healthy for the brain. When you do sujood, the sinuses, the maxillary sinus, the ethmoidal sinuses, they get drained, the secretion. You have less chances of having sinusitis, that is inflammation of the sinuses. When you do sujood, there is more supply going to the skin of the face. You have less chances of having chilblains. When you do sujood, the secretion of the lungs, they get drained out. You have less chances of having bronchiectasis. Normally when you breathe, only 2/3 of the capacity of the air of the lung is exhaled out. The remaining 1/3 is called as residual air. But when you do sujood, the abdominal viscera, it presses against the diaphragm, and diaphragm presses against the lower lobes of the lungs, and even this residual air is exhaled out. When you breathe in sujood, even this residual air is exhaled out, and more fresh air enters, and there's less chances of having disease of the lungs. When you do sujood, there's increased blood supply to the abdominal viscera. When you do sujood, there's less chances of having hernia, less chances of having hemorrhoids. You can keep on talking about it. The calf is referred as the